The auction barn buzzed with noise. Voices calling out bids, the sound of hooves shuffling against the dirt floor, and the occasional neigh from a restless horse. People were everywhere, some dressed in dusty jeans and cowboy hats, others in clean button-down shirts, looking for their next big purchase. Among the crowd was a 10-year-old boy, eyes wide with determination, gripping a few crumpled bills in his small hands. He wasn't there for just any horse. He had a mission. As the auctioneer's voice rang out, announcing the next animal up for bidding, the boy's heart pounded. The horse that stepped forward was in bad shape. Its ribs pressed against its dull coat, its head hung low, and there was an undeniable sadness in its dark eyes. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Most people wouldn't dare place a bid on an animal like this. It was too weak, too sick, a lost cause. But the boy didn't see it that way. He saw something else, something no one else seemed to notice. Maybe it was the way the horse glanced at the crowd, as if hoping for kindness, or maybe it was just a feeling deep in his gut. Either way, he knew one thing: this horse deserved a second chance. The bidding started, but few were interested. The price was low, lower than most horses would ever sell for, and before anyone could react, the boy shot up his hand. His voice, though small, rang clear in the open space. "I bid." Gasps whispered through the barn. Some people chuckled, shaking their heads. A child? Bidding on a sick horse. Even the auctioneer hesitated, glancing around as if expecting an adult to step in, but no one did. The boy's eyes never wavered. He stood firm, his hands gripping the money he had saved for months. The final call came. The gavel dropped, and just like that, the horse was his. As the auction ended and people moved on, the boy made his way to the stall where his new horse stood. Up close, the reality hit him harder. The animal was skinnier than he thought. Its legs wobbly, its breathing uneven. It looked exhausted, as if it had already given up. A grown man leaning against the stall shook his head. "Kid, you wasted your money. That one ain't got much time left." But the boy ignored him. He wasn't here to listen to what couldn't be done. He was here to prove what could. What happened next? No one could have predicted. The boy reached out slowly, his small hand hovering just above the horse's rough, patchy coat. He could feel the heat coming off its body, the slow rise and fall of each tired breath. The animal didn't flinch, didn't pull away. It just stood there, still and silent, as if it had already accepted whatever fate was coming. But the boy wasn't about to let that happen. He whispered softly, "It's gonna be okay. You're coming home with me." The horse's ears twitched slightly, the first sign of life beyond its heavy breathing. The boy took that as a good sign. Loading the horse into the trailer wasn't easy. It hesitated, its legs shaky, almost as if it didn't trust that this was real. People watched from a distance, whispering to each other, shaking their heads. A few muttered things like, "That boy doesn't know what he's gotten himself into," or, "It won't last a week." But the boy ignored them. He had grown used to people underestimating him. At home, his family wasn't sure what to think. His parents exchanged uneasy glances, worried about whether this was too big of a challenge for their son. They knew he had a heart for animals. Ever since he was little, he had always been the first to run to an injured bird or stray cat, doing whatever he could to help. But this was different. His father knelt beside him as they unhooked the trailer. "Son," he said gently, "this horse, it's not like bringing home a puppy. It's sick, it's weak. You understand that, right?" The boy nodded. "I know, but I can help him." There was something in his voice, something so sure, so unwavering, that his father sighed and patted his shoulder. "All right, let's Get to work. The first few days were tough. The horse barely ate. It stood in the corner of the stall, its head low, refusing to engage with the world around it. The boy tried everything: fresh hay, gentle pats, even reading out loud to it at night, but nothing seemed to change. One evening, as the boy sat outside the stall, his head resting on his arms, he felt frustration creeping in. Was everyone right? Was he in over his head? Maybe the horse was too far gone. Maybe there was nothing he could do. Then, in the quiet, there was a sound. Soft. Faint. He lifted his head. The horse had stepped closer, its nose stretching just past the stall door toward him. His breath caught in his throat. Slowly, carefully, he reached out, and this time, the horse didn't pull away. That was the moment everything changed. Day by day, little by little, the horse began to respond. It still moved slowly, still carried its weariness like a heavy burden, but there was a spark now, a flicker of something the boy hadn't seen before. Hope. The boy and the horse grew closer, their bond strengthening with each passing day. He brushed its coat, feeling the ridges of bones that were slowly disappearing under the weight it was finally putting back on. He led it outside, encouraging it to take steps on the soft grass, to feel the sun on its back. And then came the moment that truly tested everything. One afternoon, as the boy walked the horse around the small paddock, something spooked it. A sharp noise, maybe a distant truck backfiring. Whatever it was, it sent the horse into a panic. It reared up, hooves slicing the air, eyes wide with fear. The boy's heart pounded. He held tight to the rope, trying to calm the animal, whispering softly, reassuringly, but the horse wasn't listening. It was lost in its fear, in the memories of whatever past it had suffered. Before coming to him, the boy could feel the rope slipping through his hands. His feet dragged forward as the horse tried to bolt. If he let go, the horse could hurt itself, or, worse, run into the fence and collapse in exhaustion. "Please," the boy whispered. "Trust me." And then, just like that, something shifted. The horse stopped. Its body trembled, its breath loud and ragged, but it stopped. The boy didn't move, didn't speak for a long moment. He just let the horse feel the stillness, feel the safety. And for the first time since he had brought it home, the horse truly looked at him, not past him, not through him, at him, as if, at last, it understood. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about trust. The boy took a slow step forward, closing the distance between them. The horse lowered its head slightly, its breathing still uneven, but no longer frantic. The boy reached up, fingers grazing its cheek. And this time, for the first time, the horse leaned into his touch. But just as things seemed to be turning for the better, something unexpected happened, something that would push both of them to their limit. And that is where the real test begins. The boy felt a sense of relief wash over him. After weeks of patience, of hoping, of never giving up, the horse had finally started to trust him. He could see it in the way the animal looked at him now, not with fear, but with something softer, something real. He thought, just for a moment, that the hardest part was over. But he was wrong. The next morning, as the boy stepped outside to check on his horse, he felt something was off. The air was still, too quiet. His heart pounded as he rushed to the paddock. The sight before him made his stomach drop. The horse was lying down, its legs tucked awkwardly beneath its thin body. Its breathing was uneven again, its eyes half open but dull. The boy had seen progress, had felt the change, but now, it was like all of it had vanished overnight. Panic tightened in his chest. "No, no, no," he whispered, running to its side. He knelt down, his hands shaking as he stroked its neck. You were getting better. You were fighting. His father rushed over, crouching beside him. He placed a firm hand on the boy's shoulder. Son, it might be time to call the vet. The boy didn't want to hear that. He refused to believe that after everything, after all the work, all the love, it would end like this. Tears burned his eyes, but he blinked them away. He wasn't giving up. Gently, he spoke to the horse. I know you're tired, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I know it's been hard, but you're not alone anymore. You don't have to be afraid. I'm here. The minutes passed like hours. His father had already called the vet, but the boy never left the horse's side. He ran his fingers through its coat, whispering softly, hoping, praying. Then something happened. A slow, deep breath. The horse twitched its ears, and then with great effort, it lifted its head. The boy sucked in a breath. That's it, he encouraged. Come on! The horse tried to move, its muscles trembling, but this time, it didn't collapse. With the boy's steady voice urging it on, it pressed its hooves into the dirt, pushing itself up, inch by inch. The struggle was clear, but there was something stronger now. It was fighting, finally. After what felt like forever, the horse stood, wobbly, weak, but standing. The boy let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. A smile, small at first, grew across his face. He reached out and the horse leaned into his touch again. By the time the vet arrived, the horse was alert, standing, steady. The boy watched as the vet examined it, checking its heartbeat, its breathing. After a long pause, the vet stood up, a look of surprise on his face. This is incredible, he said. Most horses in this condition don't make it. But this one's got heart. The boy already knew that. Weeks passed, and the change in the horse was undeniable. Its coat grew shinier, its ribs became less visible, and its once weary eyes now held something bright, something alive. Each day, the boy worked with it, teaching it to trust, to walk with confidence, to believe in the life it had almost lost. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, the boy stood in the field, watching as his horse trotted, really trotted, for the first time. It wasn't fast, not yet, but it was strong, and more than anything, it was free. The boy laughed, wiping at his eyes before running to meet his horse in the field. As the wind rushed past them, he realized something. They had saved each other, and that was all that ever mattered.